Welcome to the Following Films podcast, a weekly interview show where we dive into the minds behind the genre's most chilling and innovative films. Today we're thrilled to have not one, but two special guests with us. We're joined by visionary director Jill Gevargizian and the legendary actor Michael C. Williams. Jill is fresh off the success of her award-winning film, The Stylist, and now she's back with her latest horror masterpiece, Ghost Game. Michael, who you'll remember from his iconic role in the Blair Witch Project, stars in Ghost Game, which follows a couple whose internet challenge turns into a terrifying ordeal when they trespass into a haunted house. With Ghost Game set for a limited theatrical release on October 18th and VOD on October 22nd, we're excited to talk about everything from its Panic Fest premiere to Jill's unique vision that combines home invasion and haunted house horror. We'll also hear from Michael about his experience stepping into this intense, sinister world. So sit back, relax, and prepare to get scared as we peel back the layers behind Ghost Game with Jill and Michael. Hope you enjoy the show. Thanks. How are you today, Michael?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Chris? Thanks for taking the time.
No, man, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I loved Jill's first film, The Stylist, so I was really excited to check this one out. Had you seen that also? Was that
I had, it's funny because I had not seen it.
Okay.
And then I got the script for this and I knew Jill was attached. I think she probably got me the script, in fairness, because she was interested, but I don't think either of us were certain. And I watched Stylist. I was like, I gotta try and work with this woman. She's clearly talented.
Cool.
And that's kind of how it happened. We spoke after I watched it and after I read the script and really kind of fell in love with this story and talked to her on the phone for like a half an hour. And it's just like, man, she's so chill and she knows what she wants. And she's aces. So we decided let's go for it. Well, she decided I could do it, first of all, and then the rest is history there. Yeah.
And I was actually going to say that this was a really good role for you. I think this is something that it's a big swing, because I think if you fuck this one up, you could go cartoonish in how big you have to go here. And I think you keep this utterly grounded throughout the whole thing. And I think it's a tough role to pull off, man. So I think you did a great job here. I appreciate
that, because you hit it on the head. It is. It's like you could really, and maybe some people will think that, and that's okay. You don't. So thank you.
So then you stepping into this kind of phase of your career now and taking on a role like this, is this something that you feel comfortable with, this kind of these sort of, I don't want to say bigger, but I think this is a character is definitely more layered than anything I've seen you play before.
Yeah, I mean, I've always, right, as an actor, you always want to go, like you said, bigger, and you don't want to be bigger, but you want, like, it's horror, so there's always big emotions attached to horror. You're afraid, you're freaking out, whatever's going on. And this was a little different even than that, because part of the dread is what's happening to this guy. So you kind of become what is maybe a little horrible. I don't want to like ruin it, but
no.
So I gravitate to anything that I feel like is challenging, because it's some big stuff and you got to be authentic about it. You got to actually like have it happening to you. And if you don't, you're in trouble, because nobody's going to buy it. And that's the scary part of it. And anything that makes me a little nervous and scared, I'd like to try and do it for sure.
Well, I'm a dad of two. And so I have a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old. So whenever I see somebody in a situation like this dealing with children, it's something that obviously I can't help but connect with the material from that lens. And I was wondering, are you a father also, or?
I am. I have two also. They're older. They're 21 and 19 now, but a boy and a girl. And yep, I get it. Like, and this guy is a stepdad to this kid in the film, and there's a complicated relationship there. So that was super fun to work with. And Vienna Moss played Sam. She's brilliant young actress, just so good, so kind, so giving, and the relationship that happens between them could be pretty intense. So you got to make sure that you build a trust as an actor with a young actor like that. And she was amazing. She trusted me through the whole thing. So I'm grateful for that.
Well, she is phenomenal here, and it's something that my 8-year-old is on the spectrum, and so that's something when I see material like this, it can be often used in a way that can be gross. It can be in a way that feels exploitative at times, where this is another, and it's just this like, look at this odd child. That's what we're leaning into here, and it that didn't feel like that was the point of this at all. It felt like I'm not sure what your or Jill's experiences are with people that are autistic, but this is something that definitely felt like somebody that had exposure or had familiarity with these people.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I don't have as close of an experience as you have, but I can tell you I have a lot of experience
Okay.
with folks on the spectrum, kids on the spectrum, and have for many, many years. And so, like, you're right. It's like you got to be very careful because you can't have it be a trope.
Right.
Like this will make it even scarier. To me, actually, I think what the film does well is it allows the audience to look through her eyes, actually. So we're almost identifying mainly with that character. Kind of gives me like awesome, like this kid is awesome, and we should be watching through the lens of this child. And she does it, and the actress Vienna does it so authentically. Like she, like none of us are walking around like, remember, you're on the spectrum. Like that's not what
It's not
human
played
beings
that
do.
way.
It's not what
No.
kids do. It's not what people on the spectrum do. It's like this is the moment. This is how you're responding, and go for it, right? And so, and I think Jill handled that extremely well, and with delicacy. And I hope it works because the last thing you want to do is offend any kind of population of people, but certainly people who have that challenge, that specific challenge. It's difficult enough in the world, right? So I'm glad you said that, and I appreciate that. And I'm sure your daughter 8,
Son, both
son, yeah,
boys, 8-year-old
I'm
boy.
sure he's the rock star. I'm sure he's
Oh,
amazing.
he's incredible. And the thing is, when you look at pop culture, it's just that part of representation is important,
Yeah,
where you need to have almost this is going to sound horrible to say it this way, but there needs to be almost abject indifference to that part of the character, where
mm,
it's just handled as something that it's not something
yeah,
that's deeply focused on in that way. That this is just a part of your life. We
yeah,
handle things. Our routine is different than a typical family might be, and it's just. But what is typical when you're dealing with kids? Every day is different. So it's just
yeah. So
it's
well said. So well said. Oh, yes, exactly. Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, not the point of the movie by any means, but it is one of those things that I always, kind of put these things in the back of my mind as a like, okay, this is one that I can show him at some point in time. That's because he loves movies, he loves film.
So true.
Yeah, in fact, when a couple weeks ago when I was interviewing Dee Wallace, he got to meet her afterwards, and he said to her that he wants to be a filmmaker, unprompted. This is what he says, what he wants to do with his
I love.
life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's one of those things that I could not be more excited for it. So when I find people that are in the industry or when there's representations of it, I always try to kind of put those to the side. It's like, yeah, I think, this is one that you should look into, that this is a guy, that has a very similar experience. There's nothing you can't do, buddy. It's just the only limitation is in your imagination. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it. But
That's it. Oh, so
uh,
great. Oh, so great. Well, you're a good dad. I could tell.
I got my moments, man.
Yeah, trust me. I hear you. I hear you.
The best advice that I think anybody ever gave me is if you think you're doing something right when it comes to parenting, chances are that means you're fucking up. So
Yeah.
like if you feel like you're completely failing, that means your head's probably in the right
I
place.
mean, you should, if you're not humble every step of the way, like at least with that.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, they're so not impressed with you at all. It's
No, no,
wonderful. I
no.
love that about it. So
Yeah.
you get to do all these wonderful things that you're just really impressed with yourself for at times, and they're like,
Yeah.
okay, stop, get over it. I know who you really are,
Super
which is
true. So true.
okay. So then, could you talk a little bit about this idea of layering these two stories on top of each other? Because there's sort of two realities in a way that you have in this film. There's the version of your vision of what's going on in this world. There's also these people that are home invaders, and then there's this supernatural element. And these are all coming together, and this is like really a multi-genre film all pressed together into one very unique film, which is something that you don't see very often. And I think finding a performance in something like that can be challenging.
And I give a lot of credit to my scene partner, Emily Bennett. And she's
Yeah.
amazing. She's just was incredible to work with, and learned a lot from her, and we shared a lot of knowledge together, and came to it with a similar approach, which I appreciated, which was this is our story. we're I have no idea that there's people in this house. I'm just trying to make it work. I'm going to write this book, and now this payment's going to be late, and like I can't tell my wife. And the story within the story is what we really focused on. To be honest, Chris, I read the script. I really loved it. I loved the story. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was spooky. I thought it was thriller-esque and horror-esque, and it's just a cool thing to be a part of. And then I never read it again. I only read the middle of it because that's where we are. That's where my
Yeah.
story is, which is we bought an old house and we're going to refurbish it. And where the heck is the guy who's supposed to be here? And like, all right, which bedroom, and why is this sink clogging, and where are the car keys? Like whatever's happening in their lives is just like, this is what's happening. It has nothing
Yeah.
to do with, until of course those worlds collide, which is more, to me, more like it gets exciting at that point. I don't want to spoil it, but
No.
yeah, so it's a great question because I do think there clearly are two different stories going on. You have this relationship between the three, ghost people, the ghost faces, who have their own complicated relationships with one another, and then it becomes like this movie about like Kia, who's just this amazing, strong actress who's just a
Yeah.
freaking fierce woman, and like people just need to go see this, to go see Kia, because like she's going to be somebody we watch. And I would say the same for Emily, Zane, Sam Lukowski. Like I think the cast for a bunch of unknowns is pretty strong, and they should be really proud of their work. I'm super proud of them being like the older guy in the mix.
You're the elder statesman now.
Yeah,
How did that happen? How did we get that old? I don't
I don't feel that way, but
know.
it's I just said 21 and 19, my kids. I'm like, wow, what the heck? I was just 21, but
Well,
um
I think we're pretty close. I'll be 50 pretty soon here, so I'm
yeah,
48. So
I always tell my wife, I'm like, I'm really, really deep into my 30s.
exceptionally deep into your 30s.
Exceptionally deep. Yeah.
Okay, so then, and I think it is important to call out how strong the cast is here overall, because a lot of films that are of this size, of this budget, that they rarely look this good, they rarely sound this good, and if anything ends up off, it's a lot of times the performances. And I think you have a really strong cast here, that top to bottom, there's not a weak link in the chain, and it's something that's really, I think that you've made a film that it's in the genre space, but I think that people outside of the genre world could enjoy this. It's something that doesn't insult the audience. It takes 30-40 minutes maybe for the film to reveal what it is to the audience. You don't even know what you're watching for quite a while here. And,
Yeah.
I to echo your sentiment, not wanting to spoil anything, but I do think this is something that is somewhat spoiler proof, that you could go back and rewatch this and just really kind of pick up on some of the nuances and how layered this film is, and how it is tipping its hat throughout, and how this is being built out. And I think it's just a really well constructed film. So I think that people will be revisiting this one for a little bit here,
I'm
man.
so grateful to hear that. That's wonderful to hear. I'm glad you feel that way, and I hope others feel that way too. And like it is really small, like for what they were able to do. And I give Carlo Glorioso and Eduardo Sanchez and Adam Cesare, who wrote the film, and Jill, who directed it, and Justin, who shot it. It just, to me, it's like, you're doing a lot with a little, and
Yeah.
I'm sure budget numbers aren't out there, but it's not a lot. I think they did a fantastic job, and I'm taking myself out of the equation, right? If I just look at it, I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
I would have not known that this is what we're looking at here. You're right. Like, there's a lot of ways that can go wrong. Art department crushed it. Like,
Yeah.
production design,
Oh,
gaffer, like everybody on the set was just awesome.
I could smell the house. I'll put it that way. Like
Yes.
through the screen, like it comes across. There's not you completely lose yourself in the film in the way you would a movie that probably, from what I consume, 10-20 times the budget that you would have on something like this. That you're definitely punching above your weight class from what I can tell with
Yeah,
this
yeah,
one. But
100%. And kudos to them, those folks who put it all together. I think it's pretty cool.
so
Uh,
I know we're almost out of time, but are you able to watch yourself in a film? Because I don't have that in me. I can't. It's like there's two people. There's people that can watch themselves, and they're like the Samuel L. Jackson characters who he once said, I make cool shit that I want to watch so I can go back and see it again. It's like, hell yeah,
That's
I
pretty
get that.
cool.
But like,
Yeah,
I'm too
yeah.
much of like a self-hating narcissist where I don't think no, can't go back and watch myself at all. Are you able to actually to do
So
that?
I totally can. What I hope for is when I'm watching myself, which is what happened here, is that I get wrapped up in the story.
Yeah.
Because if I'm watching myself and I can't get wrapped up in the story, then I get wrapped up in like what I'm doing. And by the way, I can learn from myself always. I'm
Yeah.
still like I believe as artists, we're always growing and learning, and I still have a lot to learn. I wish I didn't have as much to learn, but I do. But so yes, I can watch myself, but it's a lot easier when the story takes off because then I'm like, oh shit, I'm in that. That's cool. You know?
It is, and this
Yeah.
is one that you can definitely be proud of, man. So,
Thank you.
congratulations on the film. You got a really strong one here. I really enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend people check it out 'cause it's a lot
I
of fun
so
with this one,
appreciate it.
man.
Yes, Chris. Thank you. Thank you. Really, I really mean it. I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
No, yeah, I hope that comes through. This is one that during the spooky season, people are always looking for the list of recommendations. What are the films that you need to watch this horror season to get through? And I think that this is one of those rare ones that the Fangoria crowd would appreciate, but also somebody who's just looking for a thriller. They might enjoy this as well. If you're just looking for a nice, quiet family drama, this isn't probably the film for you. But I think if you're looking for something that to get you in the mood for the season, you could definitely do a lot
Yeah.
worse than this, man.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, let everybody check it out. Ghost Game. Let's go.
There you go. Thank you, Michael. It was a pleasure to meet you, man.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your time and my best to you and your family.
Thank you. You as well. Today's episode of the Following Films podcast is brought to you by Bookmans. Are your shelves groaning under the weight of unread novels and forgotten movies? Does your attic hold a secret collection of vinyl waiting to be rediscovered? At Bookmans Entertainment Exchange, Arizona's favorite haven for pre-loved treasures, they turn your clutter into cash or store credit. But Bookmans is far more than a used bookstore. Bookmans is a cinematic journey. You can relive your favorite films or discover hidden cinematic gems. They have an extensive DVD and Blu-ray collection that offers something for every movie buff, from cult classics to box office hits. Bookmans is a symphony of sound. Dust off your headphones and get lost in the world of music. They offer a vast selection of CD and vinyl records, encompassing everything from classic rock to contemporary pop and everything in between. Bookmans is a gamer's paradise. You can level up your gaming experience with their diverse collection of used video games. From retro consoles to the latest releases, you'll find everything you need to conquer virtual worlds at fantastic pre-owned prices. Bookmans is the home for the curious. If you're looking for that unique piece to add a touch of personality to your space, explore their curated selection of home goods, including vintage finds, decorative items, and even musical instruments. Bookmans is also, goes without saying, a universe of books. From timeless classics to the latest bestsellers, their meticulously curated selection caters to every genre and interest. Whether you're a sci-fi fanatic or a history buff, they have the perfect book to ignite your imagination. Don't let your pre-loved items gather dust. Bookmans offers a hassle-free way to give them a second life. Just go ahead and bring in your used books, movies, music, video games, and even some home goods, and their friendly staff will assess their value. You can choose to receive cash on the spot or store credit to explore their incredible selection. And when you choose Bookmans, you'll know that you're supporting local. They're a proudly locally owned, operated business, supporting the Arizona community. They have an unbeatable selection with a vast array of used media, and you'll always find something new and exciting to discover. And it's eco-friendly. By shopping pre-loved, you're giving items a second life and reducing your environmental footprint. And it's always a great value, because Bookmans offers competitive prices that ensure you get the best deal on your favorite books, movies, and music. Make sure you visit Bookmans today if you're ready to embark on a journey of discovery. Head to your local Bookmans Entertainment Exchange, browse their shelves, unearth a hidden gem, and turn your unused items into cash or store credit. And remember, Bookmans has your cool covered. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Thanks. Hey, Jill, how are you today?
Good. How are you? I love your Ranger poster in the background. I have to shout that out.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of that movie. Love that one. So, but you're on the wall also. I have a Stylist right
awesome.
in the top section over there. It's all arrow. So you're right in between Southland Tales and Terry Gilliam's Tideland. So you're in good company up there.
That is an honor to be in the Arrow family.
Absolutely. So thank you for taking the time to do this today. I really did love the film. I think the thing I was really struck with right away was the combination of genres that you deal with here, where you have just this home invasion story with a haunted house. I've seen that before, but it's always a misdirect. I think you really embraced both genres instead of using one to subvert the other. Could you talk about doing combining these two things together?
Thank you. Yeah, that was, one of the first things that I loved about the script when I read it. I loved that it was like, I felt like there was going to be a lot to explore with characters, with there being these two different storylines with, three characters in both storylines. So many things going on with each character, many of them morally questionable, doing, like I feel like multi antagonists in here. Even our
Yeah.
lead is questionable. And so I was just really attracted to how many different characters there were, these two storylines, and there's just so much to, to go into with all those people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really enjoy a film where your protagonist is unlikable and questionable at times because it makes them more human to me. When people are these, pitch perfect, ideal versions of themselves, I don't know, it's difficult for me to buy into them. And it's really important that characters are compelling, not necessarily sympathetic. And I think you have a cast of characters that are utterly compelling here.
Thank you so much. And that's a lot thanks to our amazing cast.
Yes, for sure. Michael, I think you gave him something to do here that he's never been given the chance to do before. And it was really cool to see him just to take on a role this complex. Could you just talk a little bit about having the faith in him to do this? Because I think he absolutely nailed it.
Oh yeah. I mean, also working with Michael was, as a fan, a nerd dream
Yeah.
come true. So I know he was also really excited to play a character kind of this, he's not a great guy.
No, not at all.
It didn't take anything for me to trust that he could do it. I knew like he's so talented. I've seen him in so much stuff. And it was also really unique to work with him because since Blair, he's now like he teaches acting and he's a
Yeah.
coach, and he has he has, to our audience, a lot of intense scenes with our young actor Vienna Moss. To, there's they're violent. It's hard for me to say that because sounds so horrible. It was all very safe, but
Yes.
it was, I think, 10 times more comfortable to know that he works with young actors all the time. And so he really knew how to help us get through all of that. We had stunt coordinators and fight coordinators too, but it was incredible to work with him. And I think really exciting for him to like play something like this. That's nothing like no one is anything like how they are in this movie.
Yeah.
Maybe Vienna, some people a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the okay one. Out of everybody having similarities with their character, if she's like that, then you're okay there. Could you talk a little bit about there was something in the script that the way that it's handled, and I talked a little bit about Michael with this, but the portrayal of autism in the film is something that I have a son, he's 8 years old, who's on the spectrum, and so this is something that two things that I almost have an allergic reaction to right away are kids in peril and when there's autism is portrayed in a way that's negative. And so I think you handled both of those things really well here. And you used a much more delicate hand than a lot of genre filmmakers do. So could you just talk a little bit about your approach in the material with that?
Thank you. It was something I was worried about doing something wrong and offending anyone for sure. It was, and the choice actually to write the character that way was another one of our producers, Jamie Nash, who has written lots of Ed Sanchez's films like Lovely Molly exists. Jamie has a character or a child that is autistic too. And so that was completely Jamie's contribution to the film, wanted to understandably see more of that in films. And so I really talked a lot with Jamie about it because didn't want to, all I wanted to do was to just be respectful and do the right thing. And he gave me lots of great advice. I also read a lot, watched a lot of videos. Because of course it's something that's very different with every person. It's not like there's one characteristic. And Jamie also, I feel like, gave me some really good advice when he said which this is obvious once it was said to me, but just that, like, just treat Sam, the character, like any other character, that this is just some one part of them, not to focus on it. And I think that's a big thing that also relieved a lot of pressure for me, worrying about the right way to approach it.
Well,
Um,
that's
and I
the
know
key.
yeah, and I know that also it's also where we're asking for a lot of a young actor,
Yeah.
to even begin to understand what we're asking of them. And so I know that I spoke a lot with Vienna's mom, Lindsay, about it, and like, what she felt about it. I know that Vienna watched some videos and knows some friends that may have autism as well. So I think she's just wise beyond her years is like an understatement, but she's so talented, and I feel like she just kind of understood it and didn't make it this big thing. We didn't want it to be, feel like I don't know. I don't know what the right word is, but yeah, like this was just a choice we made to say we did it. It was, came from someone, like a very personal place that put it in the script, and then we did our best to approach it as respectfully and truthfully as we could.
Well, it's the my favorite kind of representation that makes me feel comfortable has always been, even outside of autism, it's almost indifference to it, where it's just a element of it, and it's not the whole thing is defined
Yeah.
by it, be it, sexuality or race, and anything that you're dealing with that might make someone another. When that's the sole focus and their whole identity is wrapped up in it, I think you do a disservice to that character. It, like you said, it's just
Yeah.
one element of the person. So.
I feel the same, like when I've seen certain films where a main character is in the LGBT
Yeah.
community. I love when it's not the whole film is we're marketing even like this is about a kid growing up being gay and facing that. There's like even like Moonlight, for instance, that was
Sure.
never promoted that way, and that film just like rocked me to my core. It's one of my favorite movies ever. But yeah, it doesn't, but that's probably, yeah, the best advice to we're all like a million things, and they're all tiny parts of us.
Absolutely. And it's, you look at something like Talk to Me, where you have a trans character in it, and it's never addressed in the film at all. And I don't
Hmm.
know. There's that thing that I really appreciate about that kind of representation, even if it's not my cis white male straight guy
Yeah.
neurotypical, not my place to say that that's the appropriate kind for any of these things, but it is something that I do recognize and appreciate in that. Could you,
Yeah, I have to brag about a new film that came out
yeah.
that everyone needs to watch called Off Ramp. It's
Oh my God.
connected to a lot of the
Yes.
guys that made
The
Low
Juggalo
Life
movie.
are
It's so much
connected.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and you might, yeah, just see that it's a Juggalo movie and be like, I'm sure that's just silly. It's also like it's very
Yes.
silly and absurd, but also very heartfelt. And I don't think this spoils anything, but a main character is trans, but you don't even
Mhm.
know it till maybe a long time in the movie. And it's not a big thing. It's just something you learn at some point. And the whole movie opens your eyes about, how we just judge juggalos or how we judge
Yep.
anybody. It's a beautiful film.
No, which seems really odd to say, but no, I
Yeah.
completely agree with you that it is the judgment is being pointed more at the audience than at the
Hmm.
characters in the film. It's your preconceptions that you're bringing to this about this, sort of this minority group, this, small, like these real outsiders of the world, that how easy is it to dismiss a juggalo? And so you come in with all these preconceptions into the film. And I mean, they're so utterly charming right away that they kind of disarm you. And I could care less about Insane Clown Posse. That is not my world. Don't care about it. But I loved those guys and really enjoyed hanging out with them. So yeah, I had a
Yeah.
great time with that one for sure. Okay, thank you for bringing that one up. It's a great film. Could you talk a little bit about just the atmosphere in the film? And I think you just did a wonderful job with creating, just right out of the jump from this thing, just a sense of dread here that you really slowly ratchet up throughout. The film doesn't even reveal what it is, though, until maybe 30, 40 minutes into the movie. So for a movie that's as short as this is, I think you are giving an incredible amount of faith in your audience, which I really appreciate.
Well, thank you. How did we build the atmosphere? There's so much to that. Well, I kind of, the script was informed so much, and kind of immediately I started envisioning a certain look for it when I read it. And kind of my first process is I put together like watch lists that the film reminds me of. And um start putting together a lookbook for like everyone design wise on the film.
Yeah.
And um so right away I kind of like was it put this in like I often first go for like look for what kind of color palette do I think this is going to be in, and for some reason it just seemed like it was going to be very green right when I read it. Like I don't know, the Ghost Gamers seemed like that should be their main color, and built it from there. Tried to kind of also give a different look for the family, so it kind of felt like the two different storylines and then the melding together. But I mean, it was such a combined effort of my whole crew, our director of photography, Justin Brooks, and production designer, Jen Davis. That house did, like half the work for us.
It did some heavy lifting. Yeah.
And and the thing was just so inspiring. We did have to definitely like rewrite the logistics of how to walk through the house, but the house was like a dream find. But it was, so much of it's in the script, and as far as building the tension, and then us finding out if it even worked once we edit it together, because the tension I feel like is really built with the cut.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, it was so fun to make that house 10 times scarier than it was when we first got there, which was, Jen, Justin, and then our gaffer, Nate Airy, who just, every room was full of haze and so much light, or like we'd be creating our fake moon outside to cut through. We're like, is the moon on this side in this scene? They won't remember where it's supposed to be. But yeah, it was, I first put just this whole lookbook together of all these things that made me feel like different haunted films, different home invasion films, especially stuff that leaned towards the color palette. But yeah.
Well, your first film had this very Italian influenced Brian De Palma look to it, and this almost had the other side of the world where you had this almost Japanese feel in this, where it had that sort of that different look to it. And it's just, I was really just impressed with how wildly different these two films look. So I think you have a very unique eye, and I'm just really excited to see whatever the hell you think of next, because just with these two films, I've really enjoyed them from that lens specifically. But could you just talk a little bit about the reaction to the film that is getting so far, and how it's being received? Because you've had really positive responses, and I think that you're letting your baby out into the world, and people seem to like it so far.
Yeah, it's always terrifying to let it out. And especially, it's like this weird, when you go to a festival with it and you're like, it's so exciting, but also so horrifying. You're like, which one? Like, is it really both at the same time? Because it's always best to watch it with a crowd if you can, because that's when you really learn like which moments also specifically work, and you learn even new things that you didn't realize. Like people will laugh at stuff you're like, I had no idea that was going to be funny. Like pleasant surprises like that. But it's been so fun when we got to world premiere it in Kansas City, where I'm from, at Panic Fest back in April. So that was kind of extra special to be in my hometown. That's never worked out that way. And then we toured it all summer. Even our lead actor Kia got to attend multiple. We were joking, it was the Jill and Kia summer going all around. It's just been so fun. And the horror community is such a family of, just brings you in. But we probably had, it was also fun, but we most recently went to London to Fright Fest with it. And that,
nice.
That festival is just so gigantic. That was like on another scale. We got to screen on like their main screen where there's like 800 seats in this theater. And, that was intimidating, but it's so freaking cool. And the London crowd, they make you feel famous, like not million, maybe like 10 people came up to me with the Stylist Blu-ray.
Nice.
Just the fact that they had it with them was like, oh my gosh, you knew I was going to be here. It's so cool.
And I just noticed this. I can't believe it took me this long. The mask is on your wall behind you.
I put them up today for this.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was something that was specifically
I will keep them up though. Once I hung them up, I was like, why haven't I put them up yet? Because in my office like to keep lots of my move. Like I have this stuffed animal from Ghost Game 2, the elephant, and I just like to keep stuff if I can. But I'm like, why haven't I hung them up like that yet? My office looks like I'm a serial killer, I'm sure. got the wigs on mannequin heads from the stylist and then those masks. I could put them on the mannequin with the scalp, combine them.
Well, I'm very appreciative for my wife who keeps our house not looking like a 16-year-old boy decorated it, because this is kind of my aesthetic, and it's not great. It doesn't look like an adult lives here, but the rest of the house is very nice. So, but thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. I know we're at time now, but I really did love the film. I highly recommend people check it out. I had a great time with it. And
thank you so
congratulations,
much.
You got a special one here. So just as a greedy American consumer, I hope there's more coming down the pike, because I'm a fan and want to see more.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jill. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you too.
Years gone, and what do we have to show? Wasted time that I know, and fear's gone, and where did all of it go? And my pride, and my mind follows my pride. So what's wrong with fixing and plastering though? Oh nothing, not anymore. So sing your victory song, pretend that nothing is wrong, like you don't know. The bandits finally came off, the stars are left to show off. On with the show. Fading songs, let's not repeat the show. Spy